Hi, my name is Maria Patrico. I'm the Criminal Research Investigator for the Major Crimes Bureau for the Collier County Sheriff's Office. Today I'm here to talk to you about our missing persons case for Ricky Walker. Ricky has been missing since June of 1993 from the East Naples area. A family member filed a missing persons report with the Collier County Sheriff's Office. Mr. Walker was last seen on June 18th of 1993 at a friend's home in the West Winds Mobile Home Park. Mr. Walker lived in Golden Gate Estates. He was a construction worker. He had 2 children, and he drove a 1978 blue two-tone Oldsmobile Cutlass. His family said he always carried a Marlin rifle with a scope in a case in the backseat of his vehicle. Mr. Walker also carried a Remington pocket knife on him. Mr. Walker was visiting his friends in the evening of June 18th of 1993. At some point he left in his vehicle. Mr. Walker and his vehicle have not been seen since. The route that Mr. Walker would normally take home is bordered by canals. The Collier County Sheriff's Office air and ground units searched the area with negative results. This missing persons case is still under investigation. If you have any information, please contact the Collier County Sheriff's Office at 239-252-9300.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
I am Lauren.
I'm Ken.
And welcome back to Paradise After Dark.
Dark.
Paradise After Dark is a bi-weekly podcast covering true crime,
Unsolved mysteries,
missing people,
urban legends, and the dark side of the Sunshine State.
But first, if you'd like to support the show, please subscribe to our Patreon page at patreon.com/Paradise After Dark podcast.
On Patreon, you'll have access to bonus episodes, our spin-off show, Vacation Edition, discounts on our merchandise, and much, much more.
If you have a question, a Florida case suggestion, or you'd just like to chat, please email us at paradiseafterdarkpodcast@gmail.com. So tonight we are continuing our episode on Ricky Walker, Endangered Missing. But first, we'd like to say that when we do interviews with family members or victims or anyone really, the views, information, theories, and or opinions of the guests who appear on Paradise After Dark podcast are solely those of the individual guests and do not necessarily represent those of Paradise After Dark.
Or Ken and Lauren.
Our goal is to give the family and friends of a crime victim a platform to tell their story. And all parties are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law.
Yeah, keep in mind in this particular instance, we don't even know where Ricky's at. We're trying to find him. We want to find him. We want to know what happened.
So here's just a recap of part 1. June 19th of 1993, 33-year-old single father Ricky Walker vanished in Naples, Florida. At the time of his disappearance, Ricky Walker was driving a bluish-gray 1979 light blue Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme. The car had Florida tag number LTK28Q and was registered in Cross City, Dixie County, Florida. He had a rifle in his vehicle. It was described as a 1989 Marlin 3030 with a serial number 120-87456. A cross groove barrel, a mounted scope, and a camouflage carrying case. It was purchased at Walmart in February of 1989. Ricky's car was in poor condition. The vehicle had a spare tire in the trunk, and the names Ricky and Kelly are scratched in to either the passenger door or the dashboard. He was last seen wearing a dark-colored cap, similar to a baseball cap, a t-shirt which was possibly dark blue and was either plain or had the word Hobie printed on it. Size 34-32 jeans of an unknown brand, but probably an inexpensive brand. Fruit of the Loom underwear, size 9 white sneakers, and possibly a chain necklace. His hair was black, he had green eyes, and may have had a mustache. He had a tattoo on his left shoulder of the name Ricky with the C slightly tilted. The tattoo is in blue ink and was not done professionally. His ribs were previously fractured, one of his pinky fingers was cut off and sewn back on, and he has scars on his back from being beaten with a chain. Walker is missing all of his front teeth. He may have Rh negative blood. Walker smoked cigarettes at the time of his 1993 disappearance, and there were several conflicting statements about whether Ricky Walker had been inebriated that night. His family told authorities that he was in good general health and not depressed at all around the time of his disappearance. So Ricky was last seen with a man named Don Stacy, who told police that he and Ricky both fell asleep at his home, Ricky on the couch and him in his bedroom, and when he woke up the next morning, Ricky was gone, never to be seen again. There's many theories about what may have happened to Ricky, where his car is, which has also never been found, and even theories about the rifle he was carrying and what may have happened to that.
Yeah, because that's never been found either. And
no.
They've run tests, and in the police reports we looked in at numerous intervals of the investigation, there was times where the detective that was covering the case would say, can you run a check on him and basically do a numbers check, meaning check his social security numbers.
Right.
And there was in a couple instances where police actually checked out different areas across Florida where they were told that someone was working. They would contact law enforcement and they would go there and check on them just to see.
There were multiple supposed sightings, but none of them panned out. And
I got to tell you, in reading the police reports, I think the Collier County Sheriff's Office did a great job in following up. And I don't know as to what details their investigation took. You know, I know that they did use helicopters. They did use dive teams. I think they did their due diligence. I don't know to what extreme they should have or did or whatever. But for the most part, I think the Sheriff's Office did a great job in trying to search for him. But obviously nothing ever came up. And usually when you try to run a social security number, a driver's license number, things like that, if you don't get a hit, then you instantly think, well, dead. It doesn't necessarily always mean the case.
Well, if you haven't listened to part 1 of this episode, please go back and do so that the rest of this will make sense. We're going to play an interview we had with Kelly Walker Mathia, Ricky's daughter, and then we're going to come back and explain a few things and talk about the theories on what may or may not have happened to Ricky Walker. Yeah,
we really appreciate Kelly coming on and talking to us. And I think that it will kind of give some insight to maybe who Ricky was a little.
Exactly. All right. So now we have Kelly Walker Mathia here with us tonight. And Kelly is Ricky Walker's daughter. So, Kelly, can you tell me about what you remember about your dad before he went missing?
Well, I have a lot of memories, but one memory I remember is that, my daddy was a single dad. He was raising me and my brother to the best of his ability, being a single dad back in the 80s and 90s. That was kind of not really heard of like it is now, not trying to put a stigma on anybody, but he worked really hard. He went without for us to have. He was a loving daddy. He was always there for us. He would help my grandparents because we lived with my grandparents, and he would help them out as much as he can. I remember always telling me and my brother to do good in school, to get that education, to go far. He didn't get an education. He had to drop out when he was in the 9th grade. And, but other than that, he was just a really good dad. I mean, he did without for us to have. I mean, he was there for us.
And do you mind me asking why you were with your dad and not your mom?
Well, so, they got married when she got pregnant with me, and they were married for a couple years, but then she just got where she didn't want to be a wife and a mother. She just up and left. So it went that way, and they went to court. My daddy fought hard to get me and my brother to get custody of us. and he was able to get custody of us. And she just did not want to be a mother anymore. So that's how my daddy got us. But he made up for it in every way that he could. My grandma was there, but he was a good dad. To step up back in the early 80s, because I think I was around 3, 4, my brother's like 2 or 3. We were only 10 months apart, me and my brother, so we're real close in age. So to do that back in the early 80s, I mean, that took a lot for him to do that.
So how old were you when he went missing?
I was 14. It was the summer before I would start my freshman year of high school.
And do you remember what it was like, what was happening when he went missing? From your perspective?
From my perspective, to be honest, when they first, when my family first said that, no one could find him, I just thought, well, he was just at a friend, he was there at Johnny's house, at the Stacy's house, that he just, stayed there or whatever, and that he'd be home in a couple of hours or later on in the day. But as that time went on, and I could see the concern that I had never seen before on my grandparents' face and my other family members, my aunts and uncles, and I knew then that something was not right. I just knew deep down inside, okay, this is serious. Something's not right. For Daddy not to come home is not. I never remember him ever doing that, ever. Just maybe being late coming home, but I figured, well, he hasn't seen them in a couple of years because, we were moving back and building a house. I just figured, well, he just wanted to spend the weekend there or something another, like that. But, yeah, it was kind of a blur, kind of a, uneasy feeling, to have, not to know, where nobody knew where he was at. So it was kind of scary.
If he normally was going to stay out somewhere, something like that, would he normally call and contact you, or would normally communicate with you? Was this like different than normal?
Different because, see, me and my brother went everywhere with him, and like that night, that day that he went to leave, I was at my aunt's house, so I wasn't there, but my brother was, and my brother wanted to go with him, and he's like, no, just go on, and I'll meet up with y'all later. So that's what we thought. He would just meet up with us later, that night, or, the next morning he'd leave they had a camper there where they were building the house at. So I figured, he would drive on over to my aunt's house. But yeah, no, that was not normal for him to do something like that. And if he did, then he would call, I'm going to be late, or, car broke down, or anything like that. He made sure that he touched base with my grandparents.
So do you know why everyone was everyone just really concerned because it was so out of character, or was there any other reason to be concerned that he didn't come home that night?
It was really out of character for him not to come home, but not, if he wasn't going to be home or if he was going to be late, then he would call and let us know. Because even though we lived with my grandparents, my daddy never put the responsibility of them having to raise me and my brother. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Went to work, but when he was at work, we were at school. You know what I mean? So he was there to be that dad. He didn't lay the parenting responsibilities off of my grandparents. And so that, and, I can just remember my grandma just saying she just did not have a good feeling. I can remember her telling my papa that. She's like, I just don't have a good feeling about this. Something's not right. Something's not right. This is not Ricky. And that, and I'd heard her say that. And then my aunt would be like, this just does not seem like Ricky. This is not Ricky. And so, we just, family members just knew that that was not something he would do, especially not to get in touch with somebody.
So did your family know the Stacys very well?
Yeah, they knew the Stacys from when my daddy met Johnny Stacy in school, and they grew up, and they were really good friends. And they knew the Stacys. I mean, basically, Johnny Stacy was there when my birth mom went into labor with me, taking her to the hospital with my dad. So he was always, we were always with them. But yeah, they knew the Stacys pretty well. Not like how my daddy knew them, but they knew the Stacys. They knew Johnny. They knew where he lived. They knew his wife, his kids, and things like that.
Okay, but there was no I'm just wondering.
There was no
yeah.
No, there was no hostility between my family and the Stacys.
Okay.
None at all.
Sorry, I just want to ask one more quick question. Who you say Johnny Stacy? Who's Don Stacy in relation to Johnny?
So
Are they
Don
brothers?
Stacy, brothers. Yes, sir. They're brothers.
Okay.
Okay. So the story, I guess the main story is that Ricky went to John Stacy's house out off Everglades Boulevard, and then they were all drinking, and then Ricky and Don left to go to Don's house, and when they got there, Don drove Ricky's car, and when they got to the trailer at Westwind's Trailer Park, Don threw the keys underneath the driver's seat, and they went inside. Ricky fell asleep on the couch, and then when Don woke up, Ricky was gone. Now, is that the official story?
That's one of the stories that has been told, yes. But that was the official story that was documented in the report when, I guess, the detective got a hold of, talked to Don Stacy. That was the story he gave, one of them.
So what are the other stories that you know of that aren't in the reports?
Well, one story is that when Daddy got there to the party, he was so drunk, and they said that he was stumbling down drunk. Well, I have a problem with that because of this, is because Daddy only had $10 cash on him. And I know for a fact that Daddy would have put at least $5 in his car for gas, and then would have bought at least a pack of cigarettes. So you're looking at $2-3 for a pack of cigarettes. So that leaves you about $2 and something change. I know for a fact you cannot get stumbling down drunk on $2, and within a time frame of 30 minutes, not unless it's fully injected into your bloodstream some other way. But then they said that they wanted more alcohol, and my daddy told them, I don't got no money on me. And they said, well, we got the money if you go get it. So Daddy left to go get it, but if he was stumbling down drunk when he got there and was there for a couple hours still drinking, I figured he'd be passed out, and I definitely wouldn't figure he'd be able to drive. So that was one story. Then the second story is that he went to go get alcohol, get more beer, and he was so drunk he couldn't back out of the driveway, but they let Johnny and Shirley, Stacy's daughter, they let her go with Daddy to the gas station. Now, me as a parent, I'm not going to let my child get in a vehicle with anybody who is been drinking, period. And they said that he couldn't back out of the driveway, but then he took off like he was fine and went to the store, and on his way back, he went down 10th off of Golden Gate Boulevard, because you could go all the way down 10th and look across the canal and see the house, because we were building right there on the canal, and showed in the middle of the night now, showed the house. Well, you're not going to be able to see a house in the pitch dark across the canal with just headlights. But anyways, and backing out off that road without going into the canal or going into the ditch, and got back. Well, my grandma had seen Shirley Stacy in the store and asked her, and then Shirley said, no, it wasn't. It was their little boy that went with him. Okay, well, I still have problems with that, because is it a girl or is it the boy that went with him? Did he go with somebody? Did he not go with somebody? Was he drunk? Was he not drunk? So,
well, that was going to be actually my next question. Who's James Brown? Is he related to your family?
I do not know who James Brown is. I think he might be like a off cousin or somebody. And because he was there, and he stated, I have some of the police report.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. In the police report,
he said it was approximately about 3:30, 4 o'clock, and Brown stated that Ricky didn't appear to be intoxicated at that time.
That's what I was just going to ask.
Was he drunk like Johnny and Don Stacy said he was, or was he not? Someone else said he wasn't, to appear to be intoxicated.
Right.
So, but that's kind of different stories from different people. And then when, I hope I'm not jumping ahead of you or anything, I'm just trying to make sure I'm answering your questions right. Then when Don left, from what I understand is that they said that Daddy was drunk, and that Don drove his car out to West Winds where Don lives. And that when Don got there, he threw the keys up underneath the seat, and Daddy was asleep in the car, passed out. Okay. Then Don said in the middle of the night, because my uncle went and talked to him, and this is Don telling my uncle this, said that in the middle of the night, my daddy, I guess, had woke up and was outside beeping the horn continuously and was screaming, where's his keys at? Well, Don said that he told him they're up underneath the seat, and Daddy grabbed his keys and drove off. Well, that is totally different than what he said in the statement, that, Daddy came in and the keys were underneath the seat, and in the middle of the night, he was gone. Well, even Don's girlfriend at the time, Fatima, she stated to my uncle that, yes, my daddy came in and laid on the couch, and then she don't know where he went.
Yeah. If you're stumbling down drunk like they claim, and you're passed out, if you take somebody's keys and put them under the seat, I just don't envision them being able to walk out and find the keys under the seat if they're as intoxicated as originally stated.
Exactly. They'd be passed out, still drunk in the car, and so it, and if he was stumbling down drunk, how's he going to get out of the car himself and walk up there and not be falling and, stuff like that. So it's different stories been told from them, just not the same consistency within them.
So you mentioned Fatima, and who's Shirley Stacy?
Shirley Stacy was the wife of Johnny Stacy, and they were such good friends that when Johnny went to jail for a while, my daddy would take his check, cash his check, pay what bills he had to pay, and take her the rest of his check for her to pay the bills and put groceries on the table for her and those two kids. That's what kind of a friend my daddy was to him.
Well, what kind of friendship did he have with Don?
I never really can remember Don growing up, just here and there, like a hit and miss kind of thing, because we were always with Johnny at his house, or, riding in the woods or going fishing, things like that. I reckon he had a good friendship with Don. I mean, when their mother was on their deathbed, I can remember Daddy going over there, and like I said, me and my brother was always with him, and sitting there in the living room, and my daddy going in there to her while she was on her deathbed because she thought of my daddy as another son, and all of them gathered around, in the living room. So my daddy really did think of them as a family, as like a second family. I mean, he would do anything for Johnny.
Why, if he was so close, I'm just speculating here. If he was so close with Johnny, why would he leave Johnny's house and go over to Dawn's that night and not just stay at Johnny's?
That's what we can't understand. That's exactly another thing, another reason why we don't understand. Because Daddy would have never, he would have stayed there at Johnny's, and he would have passed out on Johnny's couch. We don't understand why is he letting Dawn, first of all, drive his car. Daddy didn't let nobody drive his car. And we didn't understand why he left with Dawn to go to Dawn's house. We couldn't figure that out. We still can't understand why he would leave, because he was, him and Johnny was like brothers. So it's kind of, it's weird, because it's like, okay, that don't make no sense, and you can't prove anything, but you can prove that it don't make no sense in your mind because you know the relationship that they had, so.
Didn't you say that the house that he was building was near Johnny's house, correct? So where he would normally stay at the camper was close to Johnny's, correct?
Yeah. So they were building a house. My papa and my daddy and my other uncle were building a house off of Randall, off of 8th. You went down 8th, and it was right there on the canal. And they had a little camper that my papa and my daddy would stay in. That's what they stayed in while they were building the house. So that's what we couldn't figure out. Daddy either would have went back to the camper to stay, to sleep, or he would have stayed at Johnny's.
And we have no idea why he went to Dawn's all the way over in East Naples.
No, we have no idea.
And
none. They only give us that.
The route that they took, I find to be really odd. Basically through the South Blocks and the state forest out onto the Miller Dump Road. That just seems odd to me. Was that normal for him?
No. Like I said, my dad probably would have went down Golden Gate Boulevard and might have hit, I think it was called White Avenue or something like that, right there.
White Boulevard,
General used to be right there on White Boulevard. And then hit him off the road and then hit, Randall and hit on that. Or he would have went through down Everglades Boulevard and come back up the back way. He would have never went out that far, it's just strange, the route that they supposedly took to get back to Dawn's.
Yeah, it is strange. Even now, so many years later, that area is still very desolate, and I don't think anybody really goes through there. You know what I mean? It's a very creepy, weird place. I just don't understand why they would go that way.
Well, one thing I know from, even way back then to now, because of course I've been here for a long time, is Miller Boulevard is, you probably can't drive that in a car. So, that's usually not something you can do in a car, because Miller is a nasty road, and most guys get stuck in a really nice truck. But that's one of the things that really gets me, because it says that they took Miller Boulevard, but I can't envision that in a car.
Especially not a 79 Oldsmobile.
Yeah.
My daddy's cosmetically, it wasn't nice on the inside. On the outside, had some spots that he bonded, because the rust. My daddy took care of his car. He changed the oil regularly, kept it tuned up. Wouldn't let it get below a quarter of a tank. He took care of it mechanically wise, So the statement that Don said with it being running rough or whatever, I don't buy that. My daddy's car didn't run rough. I mean, it would get up and go. I mean, because he took care of it, like I said, mechanically. The outside of it wasn't, the greatest or whatever, but he took care of that car. I mean, he made sure, because that was the only way he could get around, so he took care of it.
So what was the switch that you had mentioned to me within the car?
So from what I can understand and gather, I remember they put a switch in there to you have to do the switch and then start the car. There was something with the ignition, and so my papa rigged up a switch, and it was if you were sitting in the driver's seat, it was to the bottom left on the bottom of the down by on the bottom of the steering column down there at the bottom, and you just flip the switch and start the car. And I can remember getting in trouble because they thought I flipped the switch when we were just outside, and my daddy's like, don't do that, you'll run the battery dead, because it with the ignition. I was like, okay, but not many people knew that it was there, and that's why we had a hard time. I can remember my papa saying, well, I don't see how he could drive that car if he didn't know where the switch was at, and so it's just little things like that. It sticks out, and you're like, don't make quite sense. If you have this, or if this is happening, it just don't make sense. But
okay, so David Walker is your uncle, is that right?
He's my uncle,
and he's Ricky's brother. And is he's the one that reported Ricky missing?
Yes, ma'am, he was. He worked at the jail. So he went, we had to wait. You have to wait so many hours before you could report someone missing, like an adult or whatever. But so when that filled out the missing persons report.
But it seems like they took it pretty seriously, pretty quickly. It seems like the police felt that it was a suspicious disappearance, not just somebody who took off. Just seems like they started, searching, and they were doing aerial searches, and they were searching the canals and stuff. Why? Do you have any speculation as to why they would? Maybe because your uncle was in law enforcement and they maybe took it a little bit more seriously, or was there anything happening that made it super suspicious? Or because we just hear about so many missing persons cases, and the cops just say, oh, he just took off. They're an adult. They're allowed to run away. They're allowed to take off. But it seems like in your father's case, they got on it immediately.
They did and they didn't. They did, I think, because my uncle did work there, and he was like, look, this is not normal of my brother to do this. But then when the detective came out, I guess, to talk to all of us, we were all at my aunt's house, and I can remember the detective that come out, she was kind of like you said, well, he's an adult. He can just do whatever he wants to do. And if he don't want to be a parent anymore, then he just don't have to be a parent. And we were just like, but that's not him. That's not his nature, mm-hmm. to fight he did, and to be so protective of us. And then just to say, oh, well, I just don't want to be a parent today. That wasn't my daddy. That wasn't him just to up and leave. If he was going to leave, he was going to say, hey, pack your stuff, we're leaving. You know what I mean? So mm-hmm. I do think that with my uncle working there, it did help to a point, because there was a lot of times that we would hear something or, come up with something and tell the detective that was on it. She's no longer there. she would just wait like 2 to 3 weeks before she would even follow up with anything. And it was just like, okay, well, what now? You've waited 2 to 3 weeks and now you can't find this person, or you can't, it's, like with his car, there was speculation that someone crushed his car, and we went and, and let them know. And it was just like, she's going to be out of town and I'm going to have so-and-so do it.
Well,
like, okay.
And that was actually going to be my next question. Your Uncle David was the one who told the investigators that Don Stacy had asked Lonnie to crush a car. And
yeah.
So where do you know where your uncle got that information from?
That I do not know. I asked him. I actually talked to him this morning, and I asked him about that. I don't think he wanted to give me that information just for the safety of that person,
Okay.
that let him know. And I understand that.
Yeah, I can understand that too.
I know all about. I know all about the and and all that, but he did, and and then she stated that as you can read, I'll be out of the office until such and such, and some of the things I just don't think was taken serious enough.
It doesn't seem like that was followed up on, though, the possible crushing of the car. I didn't see any follow up on that.
No, I don't think it ever was followed up, and that's just my opinion. So that's just something, what do you do with it? You give them this information, and then it's out of your hands by that time,
Well, I find that Don Stacy trying to get a car crushed very highly suspicious. I mean, with a car without a title specifically is what he asked for. How can I get a car with no title crushed?
Assuming that information is correct.
Yeah, that's true. It's all kind of hearsay, really.
And then you got to take in the fact that the and the Stacys kind of, they were close. They still are, So you gotta, okay, if this is true, then my honest opinion, and I know some of my family members are, be careful what you say about certain people. You don't want, certain people getting mad. But if it's true, and that's what was said, then I can see Lonnie doing that for Don Stacy. And that's just my honest opinion. Do I think it happened? I don't know unless I have the proof, unless I know for a fact, whoever could come forth and say, I'm the one that said this. This is what was said. It really was said, Until then, I have no proof. I just have to go by what was said. And unfortunately, you can't do that in a situation like this.
Well, yeah, the only reason I brought it up is because it is in the police reports. But, I mean, it's not like we're, just throwing the name around there, because I understand. I mean, my family's been in this town, just as long. So we understand. I grew up in Golden Gate. I understand the situation. And to be honest with you, Ken and I had a conversation, should we, shouldn't we, should we talk about this? Or I may even, I don't know. I've got to think about it. But what do you think?
It's walking on eggshells pretty much. I mean, it's like, do you just go for it or do you not go for it? I mean, and then it's like, are you willing to take that risk? You got your family to think about. I've got my family to think about. I really do. The buttons I've pushed here lately, some of the buttons that have never been pushed. And I can tell you, I have to, not that I live in fear, but I understand the situation with these families. I understand what kind of, I hate to say power. I hate to use that term with them, but I understand the ins and outs of those families. I guess growing up, and you're in the hearsays, and you always know, You need to be on your P's and Q's about what you say around certain people.
Right.
So it's, for that to be put in there, to be honest, it's like whoever said that had to have some really big guts to say that. There's nothing we can go back and undo. I mean, I would love for the detective to have been on it right then, but unfortunately, he wasn't.
So maybe if she had gone to the auto salvage yard or wherever the crushing may have taken place, she could have maybe found the crushed car, or maybe even the car before it was crushed, but it wasn't followed up on.
I think she was scared to go out there because of who it was. That's just my personal opinion. I think
that is possible. That's a possibility as well.
Wanted to tread those waters, and so she just kind of, well, I'm gonna have so and so look at it because I'm gonna be out of town, and I understand that, but on the other hand, there's a family that has a loved one that's missing, and if it's hearsay, we need to rule that out, so.
Mm-hmm.
We have to discuss the other alternatives that were listed in the police reports regarding a gang out in East Naples or in the Manor, stating that someone came to buy marijuana. They saw the gun because I guess he was going to trade the gun, and somebody saw him, with the gun, and they attacked him and beat the shit out of him. And that's a thought as well. So we can't rule that out because it's mentioned several times in the police reports. So, I mean, what's your thought on that? How do you feel about that versus, pointing the finger at one particular person?
When I got what part of the file that I have, and it's probably the same thing that you got, and I read that, it really did get me to thinking, okay, could this have been could this been the what really happened? I mean, I was working for the Department of Corrections, and come to find out that some of the gang members were there at my prison that I worked at, and I had to go, and tell them, and they had to ship them out like 4:00 the next morning, to get them away. That's just how the Department of Corrections does. But anyway, so I went back and forth with that, and here's the thing. Yeah, the gun, but that gun was going to eventually be my brother's. My daddy was giving it to my brother. And knowing that was going to be my brother's, I do not see my daddy trying to sell it or pawn it off, because he never want to hurt his kids, and he never went back on a promise or anything like that. And second, he would have had to deal with my papa about doing that with that gun, and it would have been just like chaos. They would have been fighting and fussing, why did you do this? How could you do this? Back and forth. And my daddy he did not want to have to deal with my papa like that. So that I don't know. I do know that when they would follow up with things being said, and you got to take into account everything that was said like that was from someone inside the jail, and they would always come up to my uncle who worked there, and it was just like an everyday occurrence to him. And they would tell him one thing, and then when they'd get in front of somebody, oh no, I didn't say that. Or, I need some time off my, I need more game time, or I need, to have my charges dropped a little bit lower, or, and then you have the reward. It wasn't a big reward. It was $5,000. I mean, to someone, that's a big reward. I mean, back then it was a lot, but so it was just like every time that was said or a police report made of it, and then they go and check it out, it was just like it didn't make no sense in the end. Like they was just someone wanting to get out of jail free, or cutting their sentence short. Like I'll give you an example. I talked to the detective last year and sat down with him, and he said someone had come to him or, requested, talked to them, and it was someone related to Shirley Stacy, and he said that him and Johnny Stacy was out riding four-wheelers and that they stopped, and where they stopped at, he walked over and he was like on a hood of a car, and he's like, man, there's a car buried here. And he said that Johnny Stacy told him, yeah, that's Ricky Walker's car and he's buried in it. We need to let Don know he needs to take care of it. Well, in return, this guy wanted some time off of his jail time. He was going to do some time. So in return for any other information, he wanted his time cut short. So we have to look at that, all those all the time. Could it happen? It very well. I don't know. I just have to go by with how I knew my dad, what kind of a person he was.
So what are your thoughts on your mother, your biological mother, and or her new husband?
Yeah. That she's never been married. I don't know how that came about, her having a husband named David. I've kept close track of where she's at just for my own personal security because of my children. I just don't want, I'm very protective of my kids. After everything happened with Daddy, of course, you're going to have some kind of PTSD, or whatever, going on. So she's never been married, so I don't know exactly how that came about, but I can remember when Daddy disappeared and we knew we couldn't find him. My fear was she's going to come and get me and my brother. That was an actual fear that I had, that she's done something and she's going to come and get me and my brother. Because at the time, I still did not believe that Johnny and them had anything to do with Daddy, because I was just going off of how I grew up with them. I just could not see that at the time. I know that right after Daddy had disappeared, I don't remember how long it had been, she called my aunt out of the blue in the middle of the night and wanted to know if we had seen or heard from Ricky lately. And my aunt's like, no, Brandy, have you? And then, she hung up the phone. So she's heard something. She knows something. What it is, I don't know. Was she involved? That's the thing. We cannot pinpoint her around that area, around, Naples around that time or whatever, or her being seen.
Well, but there was talk that she was going to have somebody. I think it was quoted that she was going to take care of him or have someone else take care of him. By take care of him, I basically mean like take him out.
I don't think so. Like someone say that she was going to have him taken out where she'd get the kids back. Talking about me and my brother. Well, she never come. She never, showed up and said, well, Ricky's gone now. They're my kids. I'm taking them. Nothing ever came of that. She never called. Like I said, when she called, she didn't ask about me and my brother. Not one time. She just wanted to know if we had seen or heard from my daddy lately. And, if that was the case, and like they said that she was going to get me and my brother, she would have knocked on the door the next day or whatever with the law or with some kind of paperwork, stating that she was now, our guardian or whatever. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, I don't think she's smart enough. I mean, I'm not trying to be mean. I think the years of her doing drugs and stuff like that, and I don't think she could come up with something like that without it pinpointing back to her.
So if you had to give me a theory on what you and or your family thinks happened, what do you think happened?
Well, I have a few theories. I mean, basically the one, from what we understand is that Don and Fatima got in an argument at Johnny's house that night. That's what we were told. And knowing my daddy, I know he would not sit there and let any man hit a woman for any reason. It was a given. He wouldn't do that. I mean, he let my birth mom beat him in the back with a chain. And he had scars on his back from a literal dog chain that you hook a dog to. So he wouldn't hit a woman, and he didn't take kindly for a man hitting a woman. So if Don was beating up on his old lady and my daddy stepped in, I could see, my daddy getting hurt that way and, getting hit in the head or something like that. Or even if he did go and Don did drive his car and he left with Don, who's to say that Don thought daddy was passed out and maybe he took the opportunity to go get some more drugs, and because he did state that he's seen a rifle in the back of the car and stated that it was in a camo carrying case. So what if Don didn't want some more drugs and figured, well, daddy's passed out, he'll just go and, hawk his gun for some more drugs or whatever and then have to deal with it later. And then daddy woke up in the middle of it and they ensued into a fight. Or he did go back to Don's, and like I said, Don might have been beating up on his old lady and daddy tried to step in, and daddy might have been drunk like they said at that time, and Don knocked him in the head. I don't know. That's just some theories that I have. I just have to look at everything and I have to piece it together with how I know my daddy and where he would go, where he wouldn't go, and how he would be and what he would take and what he wouldn't take. So I just have to, I look at the Stacys. I look at Don Stacy. He's the last one to see him alive. He's the one that has told 3 or 4 different stories. And he's the one that, Shirley Stacy come in and took a lie detector test, but him and Johnny would never come in and take a lie detector test, even when they set it up for them to come take it. Even when they told Shirley to tell them, they still would never come in and take a lie detector test. They refused. So if you're innocent, why are you refusing to take a lie detector test?
Right.
If I was being accused of something, I would do everything I could to prove my innocence.
The question I have is, because we always, when we cover these cases, we always try to ask, what if that were the case, what would his motive be? Why do you think it occurred? Do you think it was just like a heat of the moment argument or fight, and then something happened, or
an accident?
It was something else?
Yeah, we've even said, wasn't an accident out there. You know how people get when they get at a party and they start drinking and people start goofing off? If it was an accident, then it was an accident. Just, let it be known. But like you said, I think if it did happen, it was either an accident or it was a heat of the moment thing. Because, daddy's not going to sit there and it don't matter if daddy was drunk. He's still not going to take some man beating up on a woman, period. So I don't know, and we have to look at, was it an accident? A few days after daddy went missing, some of my family members drove out there to Donnie's house and noticed that he had like a front end loader backhoe kind of machine thing out there in front of his house. And there was trails out in the woods behind Johnny's house. So we got to look at that. It's just very suspicious to have that at your house and you're not wanting to come forward with anything. You're not wanting to talk. You're not,
Now, I know that you are in contact with the current detective on this case. And I'm wondering, have you talked to him? My very first thought when you told me that earlier, a few weeks ago or a week or so ago when we were talking about it, was why have they not had cadaver dogs out back behind that house? I know Johnny Stacy doesn't live there anymore, but that seems like something worth looking into, and possibly, having the cadaver dogs go out there.
We have thought the same thing. Why? I don't know. Why wasn't it done to begin with? And when they've all stated, that everything points to the Stacys, that's what I've heard over the years from not just one detective, a few of the detectives that I've talked to, over the years, that everything points there, but we just can't connect the dots. We can't just line it up,
Right.
And they're like, maybe one day one will slip up or, get tired of holding the secret, I guess. I don't know. I don't understand that neither.
Well, I just want to tell you that I think that you are super brave and strong, and I really admire you for continuing to fight after all these years. I know it's not easy. I mean, I can't say that I know how it feels because I don't, but I've been doing this long enough and spoken to enough family members to know that I know the position you're in is really tough. And Ken and I want to help as much as we can. So, and I just want you to know that, we really admire your strength and what you're doing is the right thing to do, to keep talking about it and keep it out there and keep it out there and keep it out there. It's been, lately we follow so many different cases, not even just Florida cases, but so many cases all over the country. And we've seen after 20, 30 years, finally something happens and the ball gets rolling because the family wouldn't give up. You know what I mean? Just don't lose hope. That's just one thing I want to tell you. Don't lose hope.
I appreciate that so much. You don't know how much that means to me. It is hard. 27 years is a long time, to go through basically, my childhood, half of my childhood was gone, Buttons have got to be pushed though, I think sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. And we've seen it, like I was just saying, in other cases, most notably, if you've got some time, if you Google Sarah Turney and her sister Alyssa Turney went missing in 2001, and Sarah, she knows her father did it. Her father.
Yeah.
And just now, after all these years, apparently, I think that they're bringing charges against her father. But she had to, go to the media. She did podcasts. She started her own podcast. She went to CrimeCon and talked to everybody she could talk to, and just kept blabbing her mouth and pushing buttons, and it finally will get you somewhere. I mean, I don't know if she had quite the roadblocks that you might have as far as the families involved and whether you want to go there or not, but I definitely don't give up and don't lose hope.
I'm not giving up, and like I said, I'm pushing buttons. I just got to know when not to push the button because I've got my kids to think about, first and foremost. I don't want to endanger them. So I have to keep I hate to say a down low, but I really do have to keep a down low.
We really appreciate your time, and we appreciate you allowing us to and trusting us to do this episode on your dad. And our hope is that it might reach the right person and somebody may come forward with some information. That's always our goal. Just to keep the word going, keep it out there and hope that it lands on the right ears.
Yes, and I appreciate y'all for doing this. I really do. I mean, I wish I could pay y'all over 100,000 times. I mean, me and my husband talk about it. My family, they're like, talk to her. I'm like, oh, I'm doing it Wednesday night. And they're like, okay, well, let me know. And just closure is what we want and what other families want. And if it were not for people like you to go out of your way and to give up so much of your time and effort to research these cases, it probably would never get heard. And that's just the truth. So we appreciate y'all. I mean, I don't even know y'all, but I mean, I'm telling you, I would lay my life down for y'all right now. I'd be like, don't mess with them. I got their back. It's like, what'd you say? No, you didn't.
And we are back.
Yeah, that was a great interview, and we'll put out there what we can, but on the non-recorded side of that, I could really understand her frustration You know, I mean, and it's always easy to think that the last person to see someone is
the guilty party.
Exactly. Not always the case. But,
No.
you know, I mean, I can understand her frustration and why she thinks the way she thinks. And I guess it's because they would have the most information.
Right.
So.
And one part of this that I feel like we should elaborate on, and we did talk about it in the interview, was the talk of the possible crushing of the car and the people that may have been involved in that. And we're not mentioning their name because they've not been really implicated in anything aside from being mentioned in a police report. I mean, it's all hearsay. But if this family was involved, that kind of changes things a bit. You know, I think a lot of towns, a lot of places, there's, you know, like a certain family in every town that has deep roots, you know, and everybody knows who they are, and they can pull strings and they can make things happen. This specific.
And for that reason, a lot of people are fearful of them.
Right. And, you know, this particular family that we're not mentioning does have a criminal past. They are tied
Not all of them.
Not all of them,
no,
but they are tied to some other crimes, another sort of high profile missing person case around here. And
it's just that's you're going to run into that. Again, it's like small town USA. Like I always say, I love using that phrase, but it's a very deep rooted and old family. And there's several in this town. I mean,
yeah. And even
there's like
I would
5 or
say
6
the
names.
Walkers were a little part of that.
Exactly.
The Stacys, you know, they're all kind of run in the same circle. But I find it interesting that, you know, Kelly brought up in the interview that maybe even the detective was too scared to follow up on that lead of the crushing of the car.
Yeah, she mentioned something about leaving town, or?
Yeah, the detective said she was leaving town. She said she was going to have so-and-so follow up on it, but there was never any, in all the reports, there was never any mention of any follow-up on that lead about the car being crushed.
Well, and something else that I thought about, and I'm not saying that this is true. I've done no research. This is just basically let's say speculation, if you will. When in doing this case and researching a lot of the stuff that we discussed in this case, reading the police reports and just doing research, and a lot of times they always say that there's 6 degrees of separation in whatever, right? Usually there's 6 degrees of separation, whatever. In this case, with me personally, and I know it's with you, it's got to be even more because your family roots go a little bit deeper than mine. We moved here in 87, but growing up in school here,
my family's been here since the
early
50s.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. And with all that said, we're not pointing any fingers. We're not saying so-and-so said this, and we mentioned the Stacey family, and we talk about them. We're not saying they did anything, but we're trying to say that we're trying to find Ricky. And if you've got information, we need that information.
Yes.
And that's kind of what we're trying to get across.
If you see something, say something. So if you know something, now's the time to come forward. It's been
27 years.
It's been 27 years.
And
it's been 27 years. I think it's time, you know, if anybody has any information, to come forward. And you can anonymously submit information to the Collier County Sheriff's Office on their website. If you're not comfortable, send us the information and we'll submit it.
And again, you can always call Crime Stoppers. Crime Stoppers has this case isn't open on Crime Stoppers. You got, the Charlie Project. I mean, there's so many avenues that you can take. If you know something, say something. We say it all the time. It's just, I feel for Kelly and the family and what they've gone through because, you know, when this happens, Kelly was young enough that this altered her life and the way her life was. I mean, she had to change at such a young age that now she's a totally different person. And there's no telling where she would have been had her dad just came and picked her up the next day or showed up the next day or whatever.
Right.
So
again, the 24-hour phone number for the Collier County Sheriff's Office is 239-252-9300. And we're going to wrap this one up
Yep. So that's going to be it for everyone tonight.
Again, if you'd like to support the show, please subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/Paradise After Dark podcast.
You can check out our Etsy store for some awesome Paradise After Dark gear. And you know what? There's also, if you just hit up our website, there's a donate button if you want to help out the show too. Just, pop in there and give us a little.
ParadiseAfterDark.com.
Yep. Just give us a little boop on the dot.
Make sure to follow us on social media at Paradise After Dark Podcast on Instagram and Facebook, and at Paradise Dark 239 on Twitter.
Yeah, Lauren is very, very good about responding to people. Give her usually about 30 seconds and she's on it. Okay. You can also email us at paradiseafterdarkpodcast@gmail.com.
And please make sure to subscribe to the show on whatever platform you're listening on, and rate and review. This really helps us branch out and reach a wider audience.
Yeah, the reviews are huge. Like I said, that's almost like subscribing. I mean, it's a big help for us. So we appreciate you doing that. And thank you everyone for listening
to Paradise After Dark.
Dark.